Hello, this is the Terminally Online podcast. It's been a while, but with the reintroduction of the show comes along with new hosts. I would like to introduce them. This is Alex.
Hello, I'm gonna be the new co-host of the show. It's gonna be a bit of a reboot. As I understand, this podcast used to have 3 hosts, including Paul over here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've never actually produced other online content, so I'm gonna do my best, and we'll see how it goes.
Good. We have some topics to go over for tonight, including the California recall election, the German election, some debate over the United States Senate, including it's like whether it should stay or not. Also, news about the Texas abortion ban and the Chinese versus the gamers situation. So let's get on to the first topic. For the first one, we'll go over the California recall elections, which are coming up on September 13th, which will be a interesting show at the say the least, with 46 candidates and including that range from different parties, independents, and have different views. Alex, do you have any knowledge of what's in the recall?
Well, from what I understand, California has this thing from the progressive era where they're able to recall governors if a certain threshold of signatures is met on a petition asking for this recall. And you can see it's quite an old policy by the electoral system that is being used. It's quite antiquated. You have first a vote about whether or not the population wants to recall the governor, and if they vote to recall him, then they have a second vote on the same ballot in which they're asked who they want to be the next governor. Now, the reason I don't really like this system, and I doubt you do either, is because you can recall a governor with, let's say, 51% of the vote, but then, on the second ballot, another candidate with very unpopular views or very controversial views can win the election with something like, well, just a plurality of the vote. So it could be 25% of the vote, it could be 13% of the vote. And now we're looking at a situation in California where, as I understand it, a far-right radio host could probably become the next governor of a pretty liberal state, considering the present voting demographics. Would that be a good report on the situation?
Yes. I find the plurality fine. I guess it's the way people have been handling it. So a lot of nuisance people and Democrats have been just saying no, but not saying who to put in the second part. So it's heavily leaning into Republican right now. If all the nuisance people are just Democrats, just vote on a candidate you want, then it would be heavily Democrat based. But since that's not that, this puts Eldar in the head of the polls right now, which is a little bit controversial. And the top Democrat right now is also controversial for his policies. Kevin
Paffrath.
Yes, Kevin Paffrath. He has some controversial policies, including COVID, was COVID. He removed taxes on anyone under $250,000.
Well, what's controversial about his COVID views? Because right now you just said COVID.
Oh, okay. He wants to make all COVID mandate stuff optional, so it will be no mandate for things like vaccine for teachers, healthcare workers, and any important roles that is currently helping prevent the spread of COVID. And it will make a lot of that optional, so it will be a little dangerous if things go wrong.
How are California's vaccination rates?
They're pretty high. May look up the numbers right now. We have reached around 80%. At least 1%. At least they took in their first dose, like taking one dose at least. So we are already at very high amounts, and you can see this number reflected in our death toll, which are very low and flatlining right now. And compared to other states that have low vaccination rates, their death toll is rising, while their infection rate is rising. We have a slightly increasing infection rate right now, but our death toll is not going up.
It's kind of surprising considering like the large homeless population of California. You'd expect the death toll to be higher.
Yes. Luckily, what is it? We have many precautions and taken many steps to prevent the spread of the disease. Because what got hit the most and the hardest were places where there was many interactions. So restaurants, places of community places, and all that stuff. So since we taken steps to prevent that spread of it, we have isolated it. So it's not affecting that much of people that are not much into like the homeless. Well, they're still homeless, and there's still a good chance that die compared to someone who has health care and healthy living, but we're doing much better than that.
No, it's good to hear. But if we could go back on the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand, there was a second Republican candidate with quite a good shot at winning the recall. Something Falconer?
Falconer.
Falconer. Okay.
I haven't heard about this person. Can you explain this? Oh, Kevin Faulkner?
I don't know. I was looking at the polls and I saw him always like at a distant third behind Paffrat, but like with the somewhat high velocity of the polls, if I'm not mistaken, he still has a shot.
Yes. He, since it's plurality, something might happen out of nowhere and change the election. It's many of the Republicans trying to get to the race, because Cox was the number one Republican for a while, since he always ran. He was the number one, but now Eldar is. I'm looking up more about him. He served as a 36th mayor of San Diego. He just a regular politician, city council. So yes, he's one of the more Southern California conservative Republicans.
Now, here's something I'm curious about. As I said previously, California is a very liberal state compared to the American average. And if you look at Republicans in these states, especially in New England, you'll see that they often moderate their views in order to, well, be able to win elections. And from what I've seen of Larry Eldar, that's not the case for California. Is there any particular reason for why that is?
He displaying in like the polls, he's not that popular, but like he's popular amongst Republicans. Usually our Republicans are more moderate. Example is Schwarzenegger, and even now he's more of the anti-Trump Republican base, while also being pro vaccines and more hard and having a more strict mandate in terms of like laws protecting, not laws, but COVID mandates, so masks, all that stuff. But Eldar is the same group of people that are the radio talk show host, celebrity. He runs a radio show / podcast, and what is it? I think he falls in the line of the same people like as Donald Trump. Former, celebrity, a rich mogul, and all that stuff. He represents that portion of California, which is very much with the middle class business owners of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's interesting because I saw where he went into a working class neighborhood, and he went into diners and restaurants and stuff, but he didn't talk to any of the people eating there. He talked to the people who owned it and were the managers, and talking about stuff like business and stuff. So you can see that he's different compared to, well, not just different, he just acts like in that sort of way.
It's interesting. So, like, on one hand, he tries to act like a future populist leader of California who's going to rile up the people against the Democratic establishment. And on the other hand, he goes and pretty much just campaigns in the wealthier, more affluent circles, if I could say it like that.
Yes. And this is very common amongst California Republicans, or just the middle / upper class in general. Like Caitlyn Jenner, she just constantly complains about she complains about taxes, which can be a discussion, but she complains about the taxes on things like you own too much land, she's saying people, her friends that own an airport strip are complaining about oh, now I'm paying too much just for this. It's they're they try to act populist, but they feel like they're obviously still stuck in their bubble. It's very much of the Hollywood mantra of not caring. Well, they just forget about everyone else.
From what I see, Caitlyn Jenner seems to be a candidate which attracted a lot of media attention in the early days of the campaign, but right now is polling in single digits and is pretty much just a non-issue.
Yeah, because it's the celebrity thing. Eldar is a celebrity, and all stuff, and we have known to have celebrities winning recall elections in California. The last one was Arnold Schwarzenegger, as previously mentioned, and so people were writing, it's this could be the next Donald Trump, or the next possible person of winning, because we're very much a Hollywood, Los Angeles focused state. What is it? So we get that. Go ahead, people.
From what I see in the 26 and 2003 elections, it seems like Republicans were able to win California without winning either Los Angeles or the San Francisco Bay Area. would that still be possible in 2020 with California urbanizing more and more, with a lot more people moving in, and mostly moving into the cities? Is there really still a chance of Republicans being able to take over the state without at least reaching a bit into, either the Bay Area or Los Angeles? I'm going to send you the map for the 2006 election so you can get a good look. At what I'm saying.
See.
Yeah, here.
Yes. Yes, I see there is a difference. And of course, like Orange County and, that area went to the Republicans in 2003. But, what is it? I think depends, because the San Francisco area is the only place that, because people keep on mentioning like California depopulating, San Francisco is the only area that is depopulating, while other places have been growing. Example, the more deserty area just outside of Los Angeles is growing more, but I'm thinking they are becoming less Republican. Mainly because like it's just those areas are running out of room and it's just expanding. So, in terms of business, population, and all that stuff. So this includes, what is it? Election polling. So, like, you can see it's becoming more Democrat in the southern, well, at least in the southern part of California, while the northern bit of California has becoming a little bit more red. But also is depopulating due to everyone moving to the city.
Oh, yeah, doesn't the North, isn't there a large movement in sort of the parts of the state that border Oregon to form a new state, the state of Jefferson?
Yes. It's very much prominent there. It has no political power, so we don't expect it. I have had friends, what is it? Go up north and they see like signs entering Jefferson and like Jefferson signs and everywhere and all that stuff, and so it's very prominent there, but it has no political power. And you can see that like how important places like how political power is important in California. So like in those other split up California, it's usually proposed that can get on the ballot or try to almost get on the ballot is pushed by billionaires, and they usually include it, but it's mainly focused on like the coastal cities, and so those.
Yeah, I remember the proposal to split California in three, and I was very surprised because when I saw the way they cut it up, I was like, wait, you're not actually trying to solve the problem of Republicans who feel they have no representation, because the way you drew the borders, you're just creating 3 new blue states. It's a way to obtain more power in the Senate.
Depends, but you see, it would probably be a useful thing for the billionaires because of if they already have control of the city, that means they control like an entire state's worth of authority. So say Los Angeles, California split up, and Los Angeles is like majority of like one of those states. Then if you control the city council or the mayor, then you probably control the entire state. And
wait, is there any state that really works like this? Because there are a lot of states in which a single city makes up the majority of the population, and as far as I know, none of them have turned into the puppet of some corporation.
What is it?
Like New York is the best example, because New York has like 60% of the population of the state in the 5 boroughs. Yet it has corruption problems because it's New York, but as far as I know, it's not owned by any specific corporation like the one you're describing.
Well, it won't be owned by one corporation. It will be like a conglomerate. New York is a good example because it's like super corrupt. It is a like you know like there's candidates that like just take the money and they don't believe anything they say, and so like a lot can go, a lot can happen there and all that stuff. So it won't be like one person because like there will be many companies here if it was split up, and especially just in San Francisco and LA. But it will be a homogeny of these corporations. Like it would be like almost a ecological parasitic coexistence of each other while they feed off the rest.
Oh.
A good like, what is it? Good examples are like West Virginia. They don't own a city, but they own the entire state because only a couple companies own a large portion of the industry in there. And West Virginia has always been a poor state, and it's always had a very high blue collar population. So they have very much control over that area.
I see what you mean, but
yes,
I don't know. It seems kind of weird to imagine that California would become as corrupt as you envision it if it was split up.
I think it would be just
because like we're still talking about a state with a solid middle class, saw at least a decent-ish welfare state compared to the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
We're still talking about a state in which actually, I don't know that one. How decentralized is California? Like, how much power do counties have in the state compared to other states?
I wouldn't say as much. Like, it's pretty high. I'm not sure compared to other states, but a lot of the cities get the final say in things, and it's very structured around that. So if less power is given to the county, more on like cities' individual choice, because they are one that actually enforces the rules. So they there's so many there's quite a bit of rules that are not enforced in some cities, because it's the city's choice to enforce them. Like during when there was like a curfew during the early COVID pandemic, quite a bit of areas just didn't enforce it, so there wasn't one in the first place. So it's very much
cities could just choose to override what the state government decided and just put out their own policies when it comes to COVID.
Yes. That's why some places were more strict than others. The government can come in because they have control over things like the state police, which are a very strong police force, like almost as like a second National Guard, just in case. But they but a lot. Like, if it's individually, they can enforce it, but if everyone does it, or doesn't do it, it's, they have very little control over that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they have their own choice on sorts of things. So, and also, a lot of economics are centered in these areas, so cities and all that stuff. So, the way that politics shifts, it will still be the same thing. So say, because like the inland empire of like the inner part of California is very logistics based, and quite a bit of farmers up even north of that. But a lot of that stuff is technically owned by people in those cities, and like us is just the work, but they control a lot of stuff. So our politics that matter, so like economics, way things are enforced and all that stuff, it was still reliant on those major commercial hubs, so like Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Wait, why do you have two regions named Inland Empire and San Diego Imperial?
Why we name Imperial stuff?
Yeah, why do you name things after like empires? The only empire you had is like the Mexican Empire.
Well, we also have the Spanish Empire.
Oh, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of things to just name it, and it's just cool.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So one final thing on that topic, I think. I think we've reached the 15-minute mark.
Yes.
So yeah, hypothetically, let's say Trump conservative Larry Eldar becomes the next governor of California for a year.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to have to face re-election in 2022, and he's going to have to deal with Democratic supermajorities in both legislatures. So realistically, what can he do?
He can do some. You see, that's what the thing about the state government stuff. It's very like you see this in the United States, especially here. It's the governorship has a lot of power, but a lot of things that were already put in place, so he can't rip out things. The only thing he can rip out is stuff that was enforced by the governor in the first place. So mainly like mask mandates, COVID stuff, so stuff like that. But it'd be much harder for me. A lot of everything. It's like, taxes wise, because those will probably have to go through the Senate and the state Senate and the state assembly. So it would be a very slow process. So the only way he can change things is if he got a re-election. And considering that this is a very Democrat-centered area, he probably won't win. So he would just be a lame duck governor for the next year, pretty much.
I see.
And this is gonna be seen like usually I've seen this with like other places. Like people talk about like how if you put someone in presidency, they can't change the thing without the Congress. But in state level, it's way worse. There has been times where a radical is elected, and then the entire state can assembly can just remove that position that they ever made, that they got elected into, or revamp it because how much control they have. Because especially in California has the longest constitution in the entire United States. It's over 200 pages. So it's a very complicated system that has quite a bit of bureaucracy into it. So a populace that comes into one position won't change anything. And this could be a problem in some other fields involving something that needs to be responded to will take a long time. It took years just just things to get respond to, especially things like infrastructure and government needs and stuff like that.
I see.
Yes.
So, I believe we should move on to the next topic,
Okay.
which is the German election.
Yes. I am a lot less. I feel like I'm a lot less informed on this than you, so I think you should explain more about it.
Okay, so the way the German elections work is basically you have. Hold on, let me get the numbers. You have 299 members of the Bundestag, which is the lower house of the German parliament. And they're elected with the same electoral system as in the United States House, which is single-member constituencies and first-past-the-post voting. But elections for these 299 seats don't really matter, because the Bundestag has around 600 seats total, and the other 300 are elected through proportional representation, and they're distributed in a way that the overall number of seats won by each party reflects the number of reflects the same proportion they had of the popular vote. So for example, let's say I get 40% of the vote, but I win like every single constituency, or I win like 200 constituency seat, they aren't going to give me 40% of proportional seats. They're going to give me a number of proportional seats that makes it so I have 40% of seats in the final parliament. And so that's why when you look at polls and you see the percentages of the popular vote that each party gets, it's pretty much what the final Bundestag is going to look like.
Interesting. It's very interesting that has more accurate polls in Germany than, per se, like United States.
That I don't know. I remember that last election the polls were very accurate, in that they were able to measure a last-minute swing towards the AfD, which is the right-wing populist party of Germany. And they were also able to measure the fall in support for the Social Democrats and for the Christian Democrats, which are the big two parties of Germany.
Yes.
And that's actually something that's really interesting about these current elections. Because if you look at what poll results say right now, if the elections were held today, it would be the first time that these two parties together don't win a majority of seats in the Bundestag.
Yes, yes.
And so that's going... yeah, sorry, go on.
That's what I've been seeing is the different parties finally getting up, and it's kind of almost getting even out. So the Social Democrat Party might get majority and might form a government, but how the final results will be how that government will be formed. That's the biggest argument right now. That's what I see in here. And what I potentially is the Liberal Party, and could form a government with the Liberal Party, the Green Party, or if Blinkel gets enough party, the far left party.
So yeah, I think we should be going into the issues. Otherwise, we're just going to talk about like the abstract of the election for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
So basically, one of the most important issues for like non-Germans in this election has been the whole scandal. Well, not scandal, but debate around Nord Stream 2. And Nord Stream 2 is basically it's an oil pipeline that would go from Russia to Germany through the Baltic Sea and sort of bypass Eastern Europe and the Baltic countries. And so it would basically make Germany like the main intermediary between Russia and Europe when it comes to the energy market.
Interesting.
And obviously, the United States is very strongly against the project because they don't want Germany to become, well, an ally, or like, not an ally, but an economic partner that is essential to the German economy, to the Russian economy, I mean. They would much rather sort of keep the European countries against Russia, because America still has a lot of animosity towards Russia.
Yes.
And so the Americans have found an unlikely ally in, well, this issue, because the Greens, which used to be an what is called in Europe Atlanticist party, which basically means an anti-NATO party, now have abandoned that view, and they've been, obviously, since they're a Green party, against the idea of building an oil pipeline to Russia. And so the Greens have become sort of the favored party by the American establishment. And as such, like, that's why you've seen a lot of positive Green coverage in English-speaking media. In German-speaking media, from what I understand, the story is kind of different. The Greens are seen as having fielded a bunch of unpopular candidates at the top of their lists and in local elections. They've been generally unable to reconcile, I'd say, their more mainstream members with the more radical traditional basis of the party. And also, they've been almost unable to reach out to East Germans. Because East Germans, well, they already have a populist left-wing party in the form of Die Link.
Is it Die Link or Linkle?
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's the left party.
Yeah.
The one in pink on the polling graphs.
Yes. I've seen them and they're interesting. What is it? Yeah. What is it? I've seen like a lot of like the, what is it? Political separation sort of thing with the types of issues and all this stuff. So that explains why, you know, the Christian Democrats and the conservatives have been going down in terms of polls. And it's interesting that like Linkle, like parties like Linkle have a basis of a large percent of the population don't say they will never vote for them, while in other parties they have a very low like negative animosity against them. So that's why certain parties like the Greens have been growing for a bit.
Well, yeah, because the left party is the continuation of the Socialist Unity Party, which was the one-party state that governed East Germany. Now, recently, they've turned progressive on some social issues.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in favor of gay marriage. They've been pretty insistent that Germany acknowledge its colonial era atrocities in Namibia in particular. And they've been open to the SPD's proposal to legalize marijuana.
Oh,
Now,
oh no, they gotta take all the Dutch economy away.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of Americans or like non-Germans be surprised when they saw that the Social Democrats were rising again.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the beginning of the campaign, everyone had written them off. The Social Democrats have been, in some cases, fourth place in the poll behind the AfD earlier this year. Well, not this year, but more like earlier during the COVID crisis. And now they're in a position where they might become the largest party in Germany again for the first time since the early 2000s. And the reason for that is, well, they've simply put forward a more popular and more charismatic party leader in the form of, hold on, let me check his name. In the form of Olaf Scholz. Now, if you remember, in the last German elections, the precise opposite happened, where Martin Schulz was fielded as the Social Democrats candidate. He had a big bump in the polls a few months before the election because he was very popular. And then he fell back down because he became more unpopular with the public, because he was, amongst other things, a very big proponent of European federalism, from what I remember. And he was also seen as a bit aggressive, a bit arrogant, and like just in general, he didn't connect with the electorate as well as initial media coverage was presenting him as. And so it remains to be seen if the rise in power of Olaf Scholz will be sustainable, or if he's just a second Scholz. I know these names sound alike. I hope the audience followed. But yeah. So that's what's been going on. Armin Laschet and Markus Söder, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, were the two candidates of the Christian Democrats. Meanwhile, the Green fielded Annalena Baerbock, and just none of these three have been seen positively by the German public. All for different reasons. And if you might remember, in the leadership election for the Christian Democrat, Armin Laschet was supposed to be the moderate candidate. He was seen as the one who was going to be able to reach out to the usual swing voters who alternate between the Social Democrat and the Christian Democrat. But he wasn't seen as what's her name? AKK, I think, the woman who was sort of groomed to be Merkel's successor. So he was kind of pitched as a renewal of the Christian Democrats, without being sort of Merkel, who was herself initially presented as the renewal of the Christian Democrats. And that seems to be something the German public really didn't digest. And weirdly enough, it didn't lead to a rise in the poll of the AfD, something which was expected. Because, of course, if you field a more left-wing candidate for the centrist party that is the CDU, you'd expect the right to come out in force. And it didn't. I'm going to speculate on this and say that this is because the AfD has had a very controversial response to the COVID crisis, having adopted the sort of boomer position of nothing must be closed, everything must remain open, this is an attack on freedom and such. And while it may have helped right-wingers towards certain electorates, in Germany, that doesn't pass. In Germany, there's really no room for this to grow. The party that has grown as a result of this, however, are, well, the traffic lights party.
Yeah.
The liberal AfD, the SPD, and the Greens.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it seems unlikely that a great coalition will happen, precisely because, well, the Union is having really underwhelming polling results right now. And even if they might be necessary to form a majority, I don't think that the other parties are going to want to associate with it. Maybe they might reach a confidence and supply agreement, but I don't think you're going to see the CDU or the CSU in government. And so that's, I think that's a good resume of the election so far. We're going to have to see what happens in a few weeks, but with the numbers I have right now, I'm confident that we're going to have a coalition between the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Liberal FDP party.
Probably. We've seen stuff like that in other places before, so it most likely will happen. Unless somehow someone comes out.
I don't think there was ever a federal German government like that before. I think they had a Social Democrat, Green, Socialist government, but Social Democrat, Green, Liberal would be the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting that many of the population still have East German people still have a pretty positive view of the East German way of governing and all that stuff, but it's been split between the socially conservative way, which is led by the AfD, versus the socialist government, a socialist way of governing, which is the Linkel.
Well, we gotta be careful when we say conservative because, well, the AfD doesn't really have much of a religious element to it. It's more of an, I guess, Volkisch will be the word they'd use in German. In English, we'd say ethno-nationalist. View.
Yeah, like
their leader. Yeah, their leader in the last election was a lesbian, from what I can tell. So it's definitely not conservatism in the American or British sense.
Yeah, it's we've seen how German populism can be very right wing, and yeah. Yeah, they had someone who almost became the leader of a state. Sorry, not a state, of a lander government. Being right now under investigation for anti-constitutional views, which basically means that they suspect him to be a neo-Nazi. Yeah.
And that guy is like one of the big shots of the AfD.
Yeah.
Now, in a democracy, I find it a bit unhealthy that people would be investigated for their views, but I assume that they probably have a good reason for doing so. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, especially in East Germany, there are AfD chapters with links to far-right terror groups and the likes.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the only reason. That's one of the reasons why they don't have a freedom of speech constitution. Is because of extremism in its history. So it has a pretext to reasons why they don't allow that sort of thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I would be very interested in having a debate about that with a German viewer if they want to come on and defend that view.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be for future episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of the Constitution, the Senate, based or cringe?
Yes.
I think the Senate is based, but that it could be reworked to be, I guess I would say, to clarify its purpose.
Yeah.
Because right now it seems to be only a way for Mitch McConnell's to oppose democratic projects.
Yeah. We were talking about the United States Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very different, especially for its time, because like it presents a what is it, an unequal vote in terms of way of governing, and the way that was written, it was with 13 states, and now we're at 50, and we have like territories who have a bigger population than like most of our states. So it's a very terms of like it's unequal in the terms of power they have. Like they feel like they have more power than the House, which is proportional to the population and different views and all that stuff than it should. So like because since the Senate is 2 per state, you need like the most moderate of people to do it, and not actually of like what the people view on. So
I feel like the way the Senate is arranged right now, it's very much like you know the Simpsons episode where Homer has a monkey paw, and every time he wishes for something, it backfires into a problem that's even worse.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see the Senate. Whereas, for example, when they passed the constitutional amendment to make it so that every senator had to be elected, what happened is that it sort of legitimized the Senate as a legislative body rather than as just a sort of cooler head for the House, well, the House of Representatives, which was at the time called the House of the People. And so, on one hand, I think we can agree it's probably a good idea that the Senate is now elected. But at the same time, if you have a body that's elected, you gotta acknowledge that it's going to legitimize its power. So we can't complain that the Senate overrides the House if the Senate is elected same as the House. You get what I mean?
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, because it represents like, a much slower terms of governing the conflicts.
Yeah, because like back in the day when the Senate wasn't elected, you could make an argument that if it obstructed the House, it was sort of the establishment obstructing the people, and it was a form of tyranny, and you would have been able to rabble-rouse your way into probably overturning their decisions. But today that's not the case because, well, Senate can't be a tyrannical enterprise and also an elected body of government. There's something irreconcilable there.
Yeah. It presents like a almost bureaucratic I already repeated that. Yeah.
And so what would be your objections to having, well, the Senate the way it is right now, besides the things we agree with, like, eliminating the filibuster or turning it into a talking filibuster, removing some of its some of its powers when it comes to obstructing what the House is doing, and so on.
Yeah, I think, like, in terms of, like, the filibuster and all that stuff, it's very, like, in the way thing of governing. It's, it presents a...
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we agree on this, so
yeah.
Present the things we don't agree with.
What were the things? I remember having this conversation earlier. What was it?
I think the main thing was that, like, one, you don't think it's a good idea to have two chambers in the legislature, and you don't think it's democratic to have a chamber in which seats aren't apportioned proportional to the state's populations.
Yeah. Like I found the discussion. Like it was just like what is it? It was going over like Mansion and what is it? And like how he can block like the infrastructure bill, and you call it base, and well, the Senate is base, but like what is it? Yeah, I find I don't like the terms of like it, not being proportional to population. What will be your opinion in this situation?
Well, you already have the House that's apportioned to population. You already have the presidency, which uses the Electoral College, which is, again, apportioned to population. I think it's probably healthy to have at least one chamber in the government that is, that has equal representation for every state. Because, if you're a Vermonter, the only power you have in the US government is one representative and 3 votes out of 538 for the presidency.
Yes.
Now, with the Senate, you have 2 representatives in in another chamber in which every state has 2 representatives. So if you have an issue that affects Vermont in particular, you don't just have one dude who can bring it to the House. Now you have also both of your senators. I think that's just fair. I think that there must be a way for smaller states to be able to push their interests through. Because if you're California, yeah, you have 2 senators, the same as Vermont, but you have 30 or so representatives in the House. Like, you're not lacking in representation. And if, let's say, one of these representatives isn't doing their job, then you can go to the 29 others if you want.
Well, like, what is it? What is it? But we all, like, the Senate position is still pretty powerful, though, for its way it's introducing things. One example is like how senators can do contracts with the state and stuff, which is pretty good. But like that's how like McConnell has been in the Senate for 29 years and never lost an election.
Well, maybe you should introduce term limits to the Senate.
Oh wait, your mic is breaking up.
Oh, hold on. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying maybe then you should introduce term limits to the Senate.
It kind of like
it's not a problem that's going to be fixed with like Senate abolition or better apportionment, because then people are just going to you're just going to have the same thing with representatives. You're going to have representatives who are elected for 20 plus years, and you're going to have states push for representatives to be able to make contracts with the state.
But the problem is that it's a difference between one person who can hold the entire Senate so easily, so commonly, and like it brings like an inefficient way of governing, versus like one person in the representative who had like personally could do like more, can't like will require like actual popular support to get through things if they're gonna have any effect on terms like this in like way of governing sort of thing. It's like, you know, like example like now it's like we're 50-50 in the Senate, and one person can bring in a different thing and stop the entire process of it.
Well, then what you have to do is abolish the filibuster or reform it. It's not something that's going to be fixed by abolishing the Senate. Well, okay, no. If you're making the argument for efficiency, then yeah, abolishing the Senate would make it so that laws are passed faster. But it also means that when Republicans hold a majority in the House, they will be able to pass things faster too. And also, now you've created an even bigger incentive for gerrymandering, because if there's only one house in the legislature, and it's the house where you can draw borders however they want, then of course the states are going to draw the borders in a way where like they have an advantage. Now they have an even bigger incentive to do so, because now whatever passes through the House is just going to become a law without the Senate getting its say.
What is it? What? But like the entire like you it's like would be way easier. Like it's just the terms of numbers can be itself. It's a problem. It's like it's really easy to get something through with lobbyists to get through Senate, because you just need, since one senator can have such power over like 50 people. Well, like, you know, a group can come in with large sum of cash and pay them all off, versus you need a lot more people to do that.
I don't think that lobbying is as influential as you think it is.
What is it?
Like ultimately, there have been studies that show that lobbyism is less effective than popular support when it comes to passing legislations, and that very often legislations that are, credited to lobbying are popular with the rest of the citizenry.
Well, like most bills are usually written with in support of like managing the government itself and try to tend to its people. But it's just there is quite like it's very noticeable when like a lobbyist group can put in a law that can still affect quite a bit of people.
Okay, well then I'll just bite the bullet. If something is popular with a majority of American citizens, why would it be bad for lobbyists, assuming they have as much power as you think they do, to push it through the Senate?
Because there's quite a bit of them that do it for a profit.
Okay, and it's a popular legislation.
Wait, so
if a majority of the people want something in a democracy, why wouldn't you give it to them?
Because they have no say in the lobbyist group in the first place. What is it?
Okay, and
like a lot, like things like something like copyright laws or the environmental laws and all that stuff. It's like there is a lobbyist groups that like are, you know, for like popular movements like green movements or
I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. Right? I think we agree on copyright law that it's probably exaggerated that
like Disney still gets the rights to all of these cartoons over 100 years after they were supposed to have expired.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask a majority of the American people, I'm pretty sure they'd be okay with Disney keeping that property.
Well, it's just not.
I don't think there's been like. I'll extend you an olive branch. If you can find polling that says the opposite, I'll change my position on this. But like, copyright law issues aren't as popular with boomers as you think they are.
What is it? Well, that's not the problem. It's like there's many more to that. There is like problems with terms of like keeping data and what is it? It's the importance of keeping track of history and all that stuff. And it just those are very negatively affected. Like all that stuff. And
okay, but then again, how would an unicameral Congress fix this?
There's no lobby. I mean, well,
there would still be lobbying.
Well, I mean, okay, like if we were to fix it, then there'd be no lobbies. But for the terms of the Senate, when we're talking about like should we keep it, it's just very easy just for lobbyists just to get onto one person, sort of thing. What is it? Like, the richest people in government are from the Senate, and that is mostly from gain from, what is it? Lobbyist money. But,
okay, well, I'll
yeah.
I'll offer you an alternative, alright?
Okay.
In order to win a state, you have to satisfy a bunch of different interest groups and ideological groups. Because if you're just a hardliner, either super neoliberal or like super progressive or like a Trump Republican, it's a lot harder to win a Senate seat than if you're able to reach out to multiple of these groups. And so that's why senators have to be like polyvalent. Is that a word in English?
Not sure.
Well, okay, well, they have to attract multiple people in order to become senators.
Yeah, because like
this means that they will have influence over a lot of lower level representatives or like state politicians from these different factions. And so if you're able to sway a senator, let's say, you're not just influencing the senator. You have, for example, Ed Markey, if you're able to influence him, you'll influence every liberal in Massachusetts and every progressive in Massachusetts. You didn't just influence one vote in the Senate, you influenced probably 2 votes in the Senate and multiple votes in the state government, multiple votes in the House of Representatives. Whereas if you were to abolish the Senate, what lobbying groups would go for is, well, the next best thing. Faction leaders within the House of Representatives. Instead of going to Ed Markey in order to get the support of neoliberals and progressives, they'd go to Nancy Pelosi. They'd go to another Democrat from Massachusetts. They'd go for whatever they feel is appropriate to influence a large group of people.
What is it? Like, because like party strictness is already there in both the Senate and the House, and like that is, and the reason we have lobbying in the first place is a problem. So,
but party strictness seems to be, well, right now it seems to be a mostly Republican phenomena, because if you look at the House or if you look at the Senate, very often you will have Democrats who either vote as a progressive third bloc or more often vote for Republicans than with Democrats. And I think that when Trump dies, this will effectively end in the Republican Party, because like I blame Trump for turning the Republican Party into a monolith cult of personality. Like I don't think this is something that can be blamed on the Senate. In fact, if you look at people like Kristen Sinema, Joe Manchin, and some of the more progressive senators like Bernie Sanders, you will realize that they don't vote along party lines. If you want to increase nonpartisanship, as counterintuitive as it sounds, you gotta keep the Senate. Senate is the best tool of bipartisans and of independent progressives in the United States.
What is it? Like, I guess it's whether in current situation right now, in terms of on the question of Senate abolition or not. If it stays like this, it will probably be what is it, that which is the important thing people are talking about now, because there's like some groups discussing like
you're a lot more likely to get filibuster reform than Senate abolition. Like, next election, you have Republicans retiring in 3 swing states, including Pennsylvania. Like, if Democrats are able to get 50 senators that want to abolish the filibuster, then, you've fixed a large part of the problem. You probably get DC statehood. You probably get even Puerto Rico statehood. You get all that new money Joe Biden wants for the infrastructure bills. And, in most likelihood, you get a lot more socially progressive legislation passed through Congress.
I'm not sure about DC, though. Like, I think that's the problem. It's just, it's too strict. So it's like always gotta be the people who right now like vote more sort of thing. So it's always gotta be like this moderate neoliberal Senate push and all that stuff. And like, what is it? And we're seeing like a different rise of more progressive people in terms of representatives than senators. Like,
oh yeah, well, like, if you want a revolutionary socialist party in the United States, you're not getting that either. And even then, in terms of representatives, I don't think that AOC and Ilhan Omar have been more influential than Bernie Sanders has been.
Well,
or that the dude from Maine has been.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. It's the they don't need to be individually. It's more people getting into it in the first place. So like, we haven't seen this kind of push in a long time in like a progressive voice in terms of the government, and we're seeing more right because like.
You had Obama, who was pretty progressive. I'm messing with you, by the way.
Okay, exactly. It's like that interest. Like, we won't get a socialist from like if we're doing the Senate thing, we won't do that until like you get a political force outside of San Francisco, because San Francisco right now is like, neoliberal hub. So it's but they have more of a political force, and so can get
based San Francisco.
Exactly, liberal. What is it? So like it's the getting the political forces outside of these city centers sort of thing. It's kind of like reintroducing like interest groups, like there's like the interest group of working people or gig commie people and all that stuff, and like this control of the elections has been very much decided on people in cities. Well, not just cities, but just the rich. So like, it can come down to that, and that's why there's a problem with just having 2 seats in the thing without a precaution, pretty much. So like, yeah, that's why like there's some really progressive people, but we're still getting Feinstein still. She's like in her 80s in California. And it kind of
I find it weird that Republicans seems to be the ones pushing for like congressional term limits.
Yeah, like Ted Cruz is wants to introduce it, but he's already about to plan to retire anyway. But like I see that it can be useful.
Donald Trump was promising to bring forward an amendment for that last time. Obviously, he lost the election, but like, even if Republicans are able to take both houses, I don't know if they would push it, to be honest.
Yeah, like there's pretty much a lot of things that like Donald Trump promised and never brought. So I think he would never. Well, he wouldn't do that, and because
his 2020 platform was the same as the 2016 platform because he didn't do any of the things he promised.
Exactly. He never.
He only did a bunch of his personal primary promises through executive order, and then like ignored the party platform of the Republicans.
Yeah, like he had the control of the Senate and the House. Lost the House, but got like the Supreme Court. He had like him and the Republican Party had so much control and power, but they didn't really use it that much. So like it, like. And a lot of that executive power stuff, it can be easily reversed, which was, so, like, barely anything that he did exists anymore.
It's like, the 4chan meme? Where it's just a dude who posts Pepe and the text reads, "I just hate liberals. I don't have any other policy position." That was Donald Trump and his presidency.
Well, yeah, and it was, like... He was in line with all the other stuff, so it was just a show. And that's why, like, I don't expect that much from those type of people. Like, maybe we get some like, after he dies, a radical will, like, come out of nowhere and, like, becoming the second coming sort of thing.
I don't think Republicans are going to win elections in a long time. Like, every time there's a presidential election, Democrats are just going to be able to, like, post an ad with January 6th on it and win the election on that.
Yeah. What is it? I haven't seen that much, like, influence from the January 6th stuff, though. But I could see them not being as popular. Like... They're very much similar to the Hillary people, not gonna lie. Like, the Hillary people were like, not my president, I don't care, and all that stuff. And now the Trump people are doing the exact...
No. That's bullshit, man. Hillary conceded the next day, and the Democrats who were pushing that, oh no, she should have won, she should have won, those were like Twitter people with like 3 likes and 5 retweets. When you've got, like, maybe the future governor of California saying that Donald Trump is the real winner, when you've got Donald Trump trying to rile up a mob to try to launch a coup to stay in office, when you've got the Republican Senate pardoning Donald Trump for doing that, you're at a whole other level. Like, maybe the things... Yeah, I would say that it's equally reprehensible, both opinions, but like, one has a lot of power and influence and represents a very real danger to democracy, and the other is just red-haired feminists on Twitter who
probably didn't go out to vote and don't volunteer for their local Democratic organizations, right? Brunch Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I saw like some polls of like that came out like early Trump presidential era that showed like majority of Democrats say like not our president. But I do see like much more force in terms of like now Republicans are using.
Oh, hold on. If we're talking about the slogan "Not my president," it's something very different from saying Hillary is the real winner of the election. Because "Not my president" can just mean like I don't agree with the current president's policies. His ideology doesn't represent me, and I don't want to be associated with this person. It's very different than saying Joe Biden. Can I say that on YouTube?
What?
Joe Biden did the thing, and
Oh.
actually Trump is the real president.
Well, like
one is like a bit of an extreme position, whereas the other is flat out like, I don't want democracy anymore. Let's turn to authoritarian Trump dictatorship today.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like, you can't compare these two, man.
Yeah, because like I remember when Trump did like an entire like a committee to search into the fraud that Hillary did, quote unquote, in 2016, and they found like 12 people, and there are old people that like voted and then all that stuff, and they only like I think 10 of them voted for Trump twice.
What's the story about like busing voters?
Like you see, like they're like like it's like not really that much of an issue, but they keep on bringing it up. It's like, you know, people can come in with like a bus of like, hey, at our church, everyone, we need to vote, and everyone get on this bus, and they're like, okay. Or you go to an area, and it's like, you know, everyone will vote the same because, you know, they came from the same thing. So they see that as a, like, what is it? Like, influencing...
From what I... okay, yeah, go on.
Like, they're more influenced to vote than not to vote, sort of thing.
Okay, well, I agree that's a bit of a shady thing, but it's not election fraud. Like, was it legal?
But most states it is, but some, like other states made it illegal now.
Okay, well, when she did it, it was legal.
Yes, and it's not that much of an issue. It's
yeah, that's the thing. Where's the issue?
Yeah, we were talking about the voting in like the millions of people, and some even the smallest margins were like hundreds of thousands. It's you bring in a busload of like 30 people, but maybe like 100 times, and even the same state won't bring in that much. Like,
I wonder how Trump would have taken it if Hillary won the 2016 election.
I'm not sure. Like, he probably would have taken it because he's like people like to boast that he was like a fascist or something, but he's like just a showman. He likes to flaunt this stuff, but when anything actually happens, like, you know, he doesn't go that far. And well, like, he's just weak in terms of that sort of issue.
Huh.
Because he is, you know, a showman. He's been that for like decades. Why would he stop? You know, it's like, what is it? It's a show.
Yeah, it's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
Do we go on to our next topic?
Sure.
Yeah, the Texas abortion ban. So from what I've heard and what I've read, Texas just banned, they just made it illegal to have an abortion after you detect a heartbeat from the fetus.
Yes, which is usually 6 weeks.
That's probably to most liberals and progressive, that's unreasonably low.
Yeah.
And my question is, how is that allowed? Didn't the Supreme Court rule that you couldn't have excessive limits on abortions?
Yeah. But, like, just recently, the Supreme Court just says, we're not going to step into this. And you know...
Why?
Because right now it's a 5-4 vote. 5 conservatives, 4 liberals on Supreme Court. And so they can change stuff. It's not like the first time. And, like... You know, like, they change all the time. Even with, like, days of slavery, we went from, like, rulings of slaves can't run away to slavery is wrong. So they can change whenever they want. And
wasn't there a pretty famous Supreme Court ruling that said that even a free black person wasn't eligible to receive U.S. citizenship?
Yes. Yeah, it was a very different time, and the reason the state can do it is because there's a certain like if it's not deemed against what the federal government rules, they can just do it. So since this was deemed okay, this was within the boundaries, you can do it. All that stuff, and that's what people were worried about when RBG died and the Senate. What is it?
Flip.
Yeah, well, this was during Trump that when 2 people were put in by his choice, all that stuff. So it flipped to a conservative amount of people, and that's what they always measure about the Supreme Court. They don't they do it by 3 measurements: moderates, conservatives, and liberals. Even Kavanaugh was labeled as a moderate, but he went with the staying out position.
Huh.
And
now the thing I wonder is, can the federal government do anything about this?
They can, but it will be a very messy thing. Because of it, since the Supreme Court didn't go against it, and whole stuff, it would be seen if it was an executive order or the federal government ordered something like National Guard to come in or whatever. It was seen as a rule, like a strong rule force impeding on a state's right to do stuff. Then the state can sue for that.
No, but I mean, what if Congress votes a law, kind of like they did with the Civil Rights Act, that says that you need to offer abortion, abortion is legal federally under these conditions. And would that override the Texas's decision or no?
It can. If it's deemed unconstitutional, then Texas would have to stop. But that's the thing. It's that's what the whole flipping of the thing, all stuff, and especially when RPG died. You can't really do that stuff until then, without getting in the mess. I can still see a push with just a slapping from the federal government levels on Texas and stuff against this ruling.
Huh. Interesting. So for the foreseeable future, Texans who want abortion will just have to go to other states.
Well, if they're over 6 weeks, well, it depends. There's quite a bit of rules. If you knew they did that, then they can be arrested and sued. Even if abortion,
Wait, what?
Yeah, even an Uber driver our taxi took them to take an abortion that over the 6-week limit, they can be arrested and sued.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can't even make an individual decision. It reminds me of the meme where it's like the myth of consensual abortions, and you have like the person, the woman, with the state where it's legal, and you have just Texas saying like, no, I don't consent.
Yeah. What is it? Let me make sure. Texas.
Like, in Canada right now, we have the opposite issue where like abortions are legal nationwide, but provinces have been able to like rule or like, you know, push through some regulations. So like the province of New Brunswick, for example, abortion is legal there federally, but the province has no abortion clinic. And so there are no abortions going on there. But even they didn't have the guts to just say like, you can't go elsewhere to get an abortion.
Yeah.
Or like in Quebec, like it's actually not a law. It's the College of Doctors of Quebec voted in a rule that said that they refuse to perform abortions after 6 months. And like even then, what we decided to do was that women who wanted abortions after 6 months for health issues or I believe it's like 90% for health issues, they just ship them to blue states to get abortions.
Yeah. I'm looking more into the issue. It looks like you can travel to other states. It's just the problem is Texas is a big state. You have to travel quite a bit.
Oh.
Right.
What's the thing about like bounty hunting abortions?
Technically doctors can still do it and just not say anything about it. Or, what is it? Because, like, I think the problem, like, if, like, you have plans to do it, they won't get you, but as soon as, like, oh, we know you did it, then they'll go after you, sort of thing.
Huh.
Like, well,
and
like...
so you could, like... You could receive a paycheck for arresting a doctor who performed an abortion.
Yes.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, you can arrest everyone that was involved with it. The people who knew about it, the people who, as said, the Uber driver can be stuff. Even, like, Uber and Lyft came out and saying they willing pay anyone in Texas who gets in trouble and sued by this law. They're willing to pay for the entire expense for them.
And now other red states are pushing through motions and laws that would be similar or modeled after this law?
They will most likely try, yes. They will, and like, of course, different ones will be written differently, because some will like, oh, we should do like 4 weeks, or you get heavily punished, and that might get hit by the Supreme Court or something. Because technically, because like Supreme Court rulings have like, does this count? And so it technically works within Roe v. Wade. Like, Roe v. Wade wasn't undone. It's just like, okay, some people consider the 6 weeks thing and punishing other people to go against Roe v. Wade, like the Supreme Court justices. I mean, some, well, others don't, like the ones that majority did vote, right? Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, and of course, what the ultimate thing Biden can do is pack the courts, because technically he can add more. There's no repercussion.
Yeah, but that sets a bad precedent.
Like, and that's why FDR was a little controversial, because he packed the courts. Because
like you're going to have a Republican doing the same thing if you do that.
Yeah, and that's what the word. Like, the Democrats could have a better system, because you see, you're in there for life, and the only time you can get out is like retiring, and like, if you have to be taken out, it's through an impeachment process, similar with the president. So like, the thing is, the problem with the court is like, you can die and then the president ran. So it's better to retire while people you're a president that you prefer is in office. You retire, then he will put in someone that's, like you, sort of thing, so to keep it safe. And that was the problem with RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is that she had a ego. Like, I think this is a problem with Boomer/Gen Xers, especially liberals. Like, they kind of believe in their own myth, where it's like, we are the better generation, and we will never leave. And the younger people don't know anything. So I don't believe when they say I should retire.
How many times was RBJ diagnosed with cancer?
I don't know, but it was a couple times, and she
refused. And multiple of these times were like during the Obama presidency.
Yes. Like,
so she could have just stepped down and let Obama name a Democrat.
Yes, or a liberal, or whatever. Like, literally, I see, like, women informed on this issue hate RBG now. Like, because of her own ego, now this is an issue now.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of cringe on Twitter from people who were treating her like she's a god.
I know, that's the problem. That's why I said, when people who are informed about this thing, it's like, this is truly like someone's ego having costed many women's issues and all that stuff. And and it's a problem because there's another liberal Supreme Court justice who's 85 and is also, it's like, people are like, he's retired, and there's already news articles like, don't tell him that he's old. He already knows that. It's like, bruh.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah. So I totally believe, because there's this idea called the silver wave, where what is it? A bunch of the older population will retire at the same time, and because they will reach the age of being too old to even work. So instead of retiring at a good age, like 65, when you're considered to, like, with a bunch of benefits and stuff, they would just keep on going. So they're expected to be a huge Gen X boomer layoff sort of thing. Not like layoff, but there would be a new wave of people coming in. And but the people staying there is like becoming like a liability now. Like, it's like this, it's kind of important position. This is not like a job. This is, well, it is technically a job. It's like a very important, like, You know what's funny? 2 weeks before she died.
No, what?
Yeah, 2 weeks before she died, someone invited her to a wedding to do the, judge oversees the wedding and, officializes the marriage. She did that 2 weeks before she died during the COVID pandemic with no vaccines even developed. And did everyone forget about that?
I forgot about that. So I think most of the American public forgot about that.
Yeah. What is it? That was like, that's also a problem. Like, the liberals, like, so many times they're like, they get caught with, like, at a party and all that stuff. I think it's fine now as long as everyone's vaccinated, because it shows, like, you're like 99%. chance of even getting it now. Well, sorry, 99% chance of protecting you. Only like 1% of that people who have it will even get it, and like it won't be as bad. So it's it's fine. So like, but back then it was a problem. It's like I always have to go to my social events, sort of thing. And there's pictures. She's not like no one's wearing a mask, and it's like a wedding, and she's close to everyone. It's like could not even COVID.
Yeah,
She's just
not
that
a good
old.
look.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have time for the final topic, I think.
Yes.
China versus gamers.
Low based, yes. Because like the ruling was that online games can't, for minors, give them access to online games more than in total of 6 weeks, in total of a week 6 hours, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday 2 hours during like specific times. And like it doesn't apply to like offline games. But since everything has to be online and League of Legends, of course this is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a. I see the positives because you don't want kids playing gacha games.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, as the meme goes, League of Legends leads kids to worse places.
Yeah.
But... and also, fuck online gaming. Like, it was way better when you would go to one of your friends' house and play multiplayer, like Super Smash Brothers or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw even like someone posted like hopefully since China is such a major influence in gaming, maybe people will finally go back to remove RDM, because like RDM will count still for online gaming. So like we will go back to an age where we don't have RDM. A lot of games, most content is single player stuff, all that stuff, and so we'll finally get better games.
Okay, but now here's the thing. These are all nice side effects of this ban.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was a Chinese kid, I would be so pissed.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, why is the Chinese government taking this decision and not the parents of these kids?
School.
And also,
Mm-hmm.
what? What do you mean, school?
Well, that's what the main reasons why laws like this happen. It's to like make them do better in school.
The Chinese are already great at school.
They need to be better.
What? How? How better do you want them to be? Like, you already have too many people in like the big universities. Like, they're starting to get the same problem as in Japan and Korea, where like the kids overstudy. They stress too much to get into the big schools, and being like a plumber or something is... I don't think they have the same suicide problems as these two countries, but they're getting there.
Yeah.
And so, like, going out of your way to improve results at school, it's probably... That's not an urgent problem for China right now.
Well, I think there's a lot of laws that like are being pushed in is to like shape the like how people are developing all this stuff. So, like it's just like they're modeling the perfect citizen sort of thing. It's and like the gotcha thing has been a huge issue in like things like the military. Even it's mostly just gotcha.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Then just make a rule about gotcha. The fact that they're targeting kids I don't know, it seems a little unhealthy to me. It seems like they're going after young people because they know they can get away with it.
Well, like it is important for you know, when they're adults they can do whatever, but like when you're young, you know, things how
In
you
China,
develop.
that's not how they see it.
Is there a different way? Let's see.
What do you mean? Is there a different way? You can ban gotcha without like
Like, well,
without banning the rest of the gaming industry, or
I
like
think
the rest of online games.
well they just did it probably because it's just the same effect. Like they're just not paying attention.
Well, that's the thing. If you don't know gaming, you shouldn't make gaming regulations.
Gamers, gamer nation. Uh,
But Taiwan is really gamers rising up.
yes, the Chinese province.
You mean the legitimate government of the Republic of China? Best China fighting against mainland China, aka worst China.
If they was it? If they truly were best China, they should have just won the Civil War then.
The Civil War never ended. But anyways, what's the like the name of the gaming company that's based in China that like doesn't produce any games themselves, but they buy assets from other companies? I think it's Tencent.
Yeah, Tencent.
Yeah. What's going to happen to them? Because I imagine, especially since they are partnered with Activision Blizzard, that this is going to affect their profits a lot.
Well, if the model still affects them, because like the main, if actually I can see why this is still not got. I can see not affect them is where a lot of money like those gotcha mobile games come from like 1% of people like the whales. You know, they spend.
Yeah, the whale.
I can see them mostly being adults or people that will still be addicted. I don't know. But also, like, I guess less addicted. Like...
Man, I miss we had kept Duplessis gambling ban, man.
Wait, what?
Duplessis was the dictator of Quebec for a while, and he banned gambling.
Oh, base.
And it was only brought back when the Liberals came back to power in the 60s. Man, if there's one thing I think we should have kept, it's probably the ban on gambling. And that's not gonna be popular because I know people who work at casinos, but like, yeah, no, it's a very unhealthy industry. It's like it profits from other people's misery.
Yeah.
I see no way that you can have like an ethical gambling industry.
Yeah. What is it? In California, casinos are banned. And like most forms of gambling.
Based.
But I think it was in part of a trade deal. Well, like a deal in trade with Nevada, where we'll ban casinos and they'll ban the lotteries, so we don't mess with each other's business.
Okay, now that's cringe.
Yeah.
Because then you're just funneling your power to the city-state of Las Vegas.
True. What is it? Yeah, like, because our lotteries are the biggest lotteries in the nation. So like it's like a very important. We still have casinos here, but they're on native reservations, stuff. I even talked to them, and it's like, yeah, it's interesting on them.
We're nearing the end of the episode, but I'm gonna go with a hot take.
What?
Lotteries should be banned too.
Understandable.
because lotteries, just like gambling, profit off of whales. They just want the addicted people who will buy fucking 20 lottery tickets every week, and that's how they make a profit. And they will try to create more and more of these people, and since most of them are run by governments, then you create an incentive for the government to create these addicts.
Yeah. And that's why, attacks on the, all that, gambling and all that stuff has been, all that stuff. So yeah, I think that'd be a good, end of this podcast.
Yeah.
It was a good first episode.
Don't drink and drive, don't do drugs, don't gamble.
Got it, liberal.
Alright, so, well, you say that, but historically, the only country that successfully banned alcohol long term was the Soviet Union.
True.
So, anyways,
I don't eat your drugs anyway, so whatever. Yeah.
We're going to do this again in about 2 weeks. I think this went rather well.
Yeah. Okay. About to end the recording. Okay. See ya.
All right. See ya.